So making that difference between harm and opinion is one of the things we're watching out for. Can we see a trend that might result in someone getting hurt in real life?
So maybe you can help break down exactly how Kinzen works and what you do for people.
I got obsessed with the impact of machine learning, right? So if you're sitting on Spotify, if you're, on Netflix, or you're writing your email, there's machine learning in the background recommending what happens next. So I got obsessed with all of that. And I realized as a journalist, if I could match good old-fashioned editorial analysis with these machine learning algorithms, we could do a way better job at finding the really terrible stuff that's on the internet. Because at the moment, you got these content moderators are overwhelmed, making decisions every day on millions of pieces of content. So we wanted to bring in trained analysts matched with machine learning to give early warning of where we could see the most serious misinformation, the most damaging hate speech, and then give the technology companies a heads up to say, hey, this is where you should be looking right now in the world, because there's really bad stuff happening with real world harm.
So your clients are the platforms, they're governments, they're NGOs. Who do you work with?
Yeah, we generally don't work with governments, but we do work with, public health agencies, but primarily we work with big technology companies. These are people that have got a lot of audio or video on their platforms. We also work as well with the content moderators. Many of these big platforms outsource the content moderation to other workforces. And we've also worked with fact checkers, with a wide range of people. We're interested in brand safety, so hopefully helping advertisers make better decisions about whether to put their ads on the internet. But right now, it's the tech platforms that use us as a kind of a radar early warning system of where in the world they need to be worried about it. For example, we had just big elections in Philippines, and we were watching there because we saw the dominant candidate, the guy who won the election, was using a lot of misinformation and manipulation in the background to kind of drum up support online. So that's one of the things we're watching out for, is that kind of threat.
So maybe you could take us in there. Like, what types of things are you looking for? How do you detect it? How does it all kind of work?
Yeah, so we are in about 17 different languages right now. We've got these well-trained analysts in these different places around the world, essentially watching out for the trends that are coming from different platforms and that are coming from different networks as well, also in different languages. So we've got machine learning helping us translate and transcribe audio, video for us, spotting patterns, and then telling the machine or the human being, hey, keep an eye on this. So it's what we call human in the loop machine learning system, where the human being is playing a role in correcting and priming the pump of the machine learning all the time. And it just gets better and better.
So what types of things can it come up with? And you can do this in any language?
Yeah, so we're benefiting from major advances in machine learning. And I always think with media people, we think the biggest change over the last 10 years has been subscription and paywalls and creator economy. I would argue that for media and communications in general, it was the birth of what they call these big language models, where the big companies like Google, Microsoft, and Facebook have developed these massive natural language processing models. A good example would be what's called GPT-3. Now, this is powering things like translation, transcription, autocomplete, but they've now outsourced them. So a small, tiny company like ours in Ireland can actually use these open source models, a bit like the way that in the birth of home computing, 20, 30 years ago, we all got access to this massive computational power. So we're using that, and we sit on top and we build our new models on top of that. So it's all down to this rapid advance in the last couple of years that allows us to, with the human eye, exponentially scale the skill of a human editor. And that's what's so exciting about this. It's kind of old-fashioned editorial skill matched with, in some cases, just cutting edge technology.
And then you notify the platform or the client that this looks like it's developing into something that might go viral, or into a conspiracy theory, or into something that might be damaging?
Yeah, we're also helping them sort out between people just expressing a good opinion or a bad opinion, and they might just dissent, like someone who might be against the conventional wisdom, versus someone who's actually trying to create real world harm. So for example, someone might go on and say, I don't like this religion, but we want to make sure we distinguish that from someone who says, I'm going to go out and harm people of another religion. So we're helping these big platforms make very fine, calibrated decisions. And in that way, we're hoping that we're helping make a contribution to, freedom of speech, to better expression, to distinguish between what's a real threat and what's just someone saying something wrong in the internet or expressing an unpopular viewpoint. So making that difference between harm and opinion is one of the things we're watching out for. So to give an example, we'd be watching elections in, for example, Brazil coming up, or in Kenya, where there might be violence because one side will go on the internet and manipulate debate and try and sense people and make them go out and commit violence. It's that kind of early warning that we're looking for. Can we see a trend that might result in someone getting hurt in real life? As they did, for example, in Myanmar a few years ago, where Facebook just didn't have eyes on the local community in Facebook in Myanmar, where there was literally genocidal acts created because people on Facebook were using that platform to create real world harm. So we're very informed by that experience, and so are the technology platforms.